that's some great numbers. We can do more. I think we are going to do more. This first 100 days was a great start, but you're going to see that now that ICE is back to doing their mission, we are going to remove the worst from the worst. We are going to remove those immigration violators that have been ordered lawfully removed from the United States.
That's Acting ICE Director Todd Lyons telling Fox News there's still more work to be done when it comes to the administration's immigration crackdown, but he's happy with the progress made so far. And this could be why border crossings remain at an historic low in April. DHS sources telling Fox there were a little over 8,000 apprehensions last month. With me now, U.S. Customs and Border Protection Senior Advisor Ron Vitiello. Ron, welcome.
Thanks for inviting me, Mike.
So what do you think the keys are to reaching that historic low during the month of March?
Well, it's all of the things. You know, at the physical border, there are 10,000 troops assigned side by side with Border Patrol. The president declared an emergency at our border. He's named foreign terrorist organizations. The cartels have been named such. We've got unprecedented support from the interagency, including the Department of Justice. So prosecutions are off the charts compared to any other time that I've been around in dealing with border issues. And so all of those things, plus this idea that we're in the interior, Todd Lyons just on camera there saying that we're going to go after the worst of the worst. And so everybody knows now is not the time to come to the United States. And then if you're in the interior, you need to be looking over your shoulder if you're in the country illegally and you've committed serious crimes.
During the first 100 days, there was obviously an effort to quickly turn the page on what the Biden administration had been doing as it relates to the border and illegal immigration. Should we expect next steps over the next 100 days?
Yeah, we'll see more of the same, right? We're going to continue to give the tools to the men and women of the front line so that they can do their job well. We're going to continue to coordinate across the entire government to take the fight to these cartels, the foreign terrorist organizations, and then we're going to watch ICE scale up their activity in the interior, especially when the budget comes in, fill some of those gaps in. So you've got leadership in the White House, with President Trump, Secretary Kristi Noem at the Department of Homeland Security, again, ensuring that she understands what the front line needs and moving all the barriers out of the way for their success.
I also want to ask you about alleged MS-13 member Kilmar Abrego Garcia, who was deported to El Salvador. The Tennessee Highway Patrol releasing body cam footage this week showing their 2022 encounter with the illegal immigrant, where state troopers suspect he was involved in human trafficking. This comes as some Democratic lawmakers are pushing for his return. What's your reaction?
Well, this proves that the guy's no hero. He's not just a Maryland man. He was ordered deported. He went to an appeals process in deportation hearings and was ordered again. And so there's more proof this week about his danger to the rest of our society, right? He was smuggling people from, in that case, Tennessee into Maryland. We know that he's a gang member of MS-13. That's why he's being held in El Salvador. And so this is just another example of where the left and these Democrats want to pretend that this is some innocent guy that got lifted off the streets, but that couldn't be farther from the case.
What do you suggest to politicians and pundits who argue that he was denied his rights?
Well, he was in 2 immigration hearings specifically centered on whether he could stay in the United States or not. He lost both of those contests with the government. He's now removed. That is the process. Politicians want to get out and say that this could happen to anyone. Well, it can't happen to anyone. It's going to happen to people who've been ordered deported by a judge, who are from another country, who are suspected criminals, in this case, now a terrorist under the president's designation. It's not going to happen. And he got his due process. And if it isn't due process to have immigration judges and immigration courts, I don't know what is. Those same Congress people who fund these activities in the government are saying it's not due process. It's as much their fault if it isn't that it's not. But it is process. It is the process that's there now. He was able to access it twice and has now been removed.
Ron, I anchored many a show during the Biden administration, Big Picture on Immigration, where we had a live rem of basically showing people crossing the border freely throughout those years. Obviously, the numbers were staggering. I wondered about what the morale was like for our men and women wearing the uniform, trying to basically enforce our laws. What's morale like now that there's been a huge shift in policy and practices as it relates to illegal immigration in this country?
that's off the charts. People are signing up in droves because they know that Border Patrol agents are going to do their job. And the agents that are on the line now are ecstatic that they have the tools that they need to be successful. Most agents want that. They want to be able to do what America is paying them for, which is to secure the border and make America safe again. So they're very happy to do it. Recruitment is on the rise. It's great to be on the line now because you can actually do your job.
Do you have a sense of the impact that it's having on the interior of the country as those numbers have dropped? And you've clearly sent a signal to illegals in this country that there's a new sheriff in town.
Right. Under the leadership of Kristi Noem, we've turned the CBP One app into CBP Home. It's an application where people can raise their hands and ask to be removed, like a self-deportation scenario. We're seeing that in real time, people signing up in the application. Hundreds have been removed under that condition as well. And then we see people fleeing into Canada, trying to illegally enter into Canada because they know they are going to suffer consequences in the United States. So people understand the scenario, and we know that the pipeline is nearly dried up. There are about 100 people, about almost 200 people at the border the last 24 hours, which versus last year, that would have been about 5,000 people. And so you showed the numbers for April. We're a third of where we were last year. And so it's going to get better. We're going to do more of the same. We're going to continue to press to make sure that people understand it is a crime to cross the border illegally and come to the United States without being invited. And so those people that are in the interior that have committed crimes and are also in the country illegally need to look over their shoulders. And people understand that the pipeline is drying up and they're not going to be successful at the border. If they continue to come across, there's a high likelihood they're going to be prosecuted, and they certainly will get sent back.
Ron Vitiello from Customs and Border Protection, thank you for your service to the country, and I thank you for your time today.
Hey everyone, I'm Emily Campagno. Catch me and my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Kaylee McEnany on Outnumbered every weekday at 12 p.m. Eastern, or set your DVR. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page for daily highlights.